Hi, this is Barry Fitzgerald, and I'll see you in the shadows.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Welcome to the Monday night here on the Shadows Radio. I am Rebecca, and I am excited to bring our guest to you tonight. We have an excellent conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about my home state of Pennsylvania, which is always fun. But let me get a little bit of the housekeeping out of the way first. As always, if you want to find us on podcast or just relive some of our glory days, you can always go to theshadowsradio.com. Click on all of the on-demand information that is available on the left-hand side of the screen. Or you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Podomatic, Podbean, all those fun things. And once again, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, etc. Make sure that you let us know. And if you ever want to talk to us, you can find us at Rebecca@theshadowsradio.com, which is always fun. And again, if you have not noticed, it is just me again this evening. Kara is still MIA. So we are now putting out an all-points bulletin for the aliens that abducted her. First I was putting out an all-points bulletin for her, but now we're aiming for the aliens because maybe they'll tell us where they left her. I feel like she's on the side of the road somewhere. But anyway, in the meantime, we're going to fill our space with this incredible guest tonight. Lora Shirley, I had the pleasure of meeting her when we investigated the Haldeman Mansion. It was last year. Maybe it was before. It was the year before. I can't remember exactly when we investigated, but it was a lot of fun. It was a great investigation. She's an incredible host for a paranormal experience. She kind of knows how to show you the space and then let you have your way, which is always an important thing when someone's leading an event like this. But she has ventured out into the world to start York Ghost Tours. So, Lora, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So, like I said, we met when you were doing the Haldeman Mansion, and you had mentioned before the show started that you're kind of branching out from that to open up this Ghost Tours business. So, what kind of made you decide that you wanted to open it up to more locations and more spots?
It's actually a funny story. I started doing, you mentioned me out at Haldeman Mansion, and real quick for anybody who doesn't know, this will be the last year for paranormal events at Haldeman Mansion, but I started doing public events at Haldeman Mansion last summer, and one of the people that came out, it was a nice lady and her husband, and they were my age, a couple years older than me, and they came out and they had such a good time, and she had approached me afterwards and said that she wanted to know if I would be interested in opening a business in York to do some York Ghost Tours. That she actually was a property owner, and she thought some of the properties were haunted. So that led from one thing to another, and the next thing you know, I'm started York Ghost Tours in January. So we kicked off January 26th. And it's been great because York, Pennsylvania actually doesn't have anything like this at all. And there's so much haunted history in York. It's unbelievable that nobody's actually jumped in there and started anything like this. So I'm excited to be the first person to do it. And it is actually going off like a blast. I mean, it's hard to keep up with bookings and things like that. So we're excited. I'm excited about that.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that you had some time to talk to us tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm waiting.
Okay. I was going to say, we are talking about this beforehand, and one of the big things that, we want to stress to people is this is not your average ghost tour. This is not a guy with a creepy candle walking down the street, pointing at a building saying, there's a ghost there, and then walking to the next building and saying, there's also a ghost here. Take my word for it. You guys do this totally differently. Why don't you explain to our listeners how your tours are different?
Okay. Jojo. I still live out here holding the mansion, so I still have ghosts from time to time that will knock and drive my dogs crazy. So you might hear them bark every now and then. But your ghost tours, I didn't really put a whole lot of thought in putting it into the name, so I just came up with the name real quick, and it just kind of stuck. But I should make our logo, this is not a walking tour, because it's not. Actually, what we do is we have several haunted locations in York, throughout York, that you actually, the same thing as Halden or anywhere else you would book. You pay your normal fee, we hand you the keys, and you go and investigate on your own. We do offer 12 hours. So when we meet you, you sign a basic contract. What's unique about your ghost tours is we offer 3 locations all in one night. So we have the Haunted Speakeasy. We have what we believe used to be the original York Hospital morgue. And then we also have a building that used to be a nuisance bar where a lot of killings and nasty things would happen. So you actually get to investigate all 3 locations in one night. And depending on which one's more active that night, you get to choose and stay wherever you want as long as you want. So, and you're welcome to bring sleeping gear and spend the night. So we me being in the paranormal field for so many years, and traveling and doing all the Waverleys and the Alleghenies and all that, I know how expensive it can be to have hotel rooms and everything else. So I like to offer, people to be able to come out and spend the night and still have a good time investigating some pretty good places at a reasonable fee. So that's what kind of makes us unique, and hopefully, everybody else will get some benefit out of it too. So,
and I think
that's kind of what we offer.
Also, that sometimes makes the best program too, where you're not being guided around by the hand by someone going, okay, there's a ghost in this corner. Why don't you guys investigate here for 5 minutes? Okay, let me take your hand and take you over here. I've been on situations like that, and it's frustrating because you're like, no, I want to go somewhere else. I want to do something else. I don't want to be told that this is my time to do that. And I feel like you guys have kind of captured that with your program.
We did, and we do. I mean, there's a lot of, being in the paranormal field, there's a lot of paranormal private teams, where you can have anybody from anywhere from 4 to 12 people on one team. And those are what we call private teams. And we don't need to hold their hand. They don't need anybody to tell them what to do or where to go. So we trust to give them the key, and they're, most of your teams are very respectful. So, and that's what we call private teams. But then we also offer public investigations, which is more or less for your social guys that just want to get together on a Saturday night and go out and have fun. So those are like just little mini 4-hour investigations. And I was lucky enough, there's a group here locally called Susquehanna Investigators Paranormal. SIPA is actually what I call them. And they're a Caps family team. And they volunteer to come in and do all our public investigations. So, I mean, they're just awesome. The people love them. Publics sell out. They fill up real quick, because I didn't realize how many people in York love to go out there and do these little ghost hunts from time to time, but they don't have to be on a team to do them. So they still get to experience it also. So we kind of want to be the full package. We want to do privates and publics. So that way everybody gets to enjoy. The privates are more serious-minded people. The publics, I mean, they want to go out there and they want to use the dowsing rods, and they want to, hear a knock now and then or see a shadow, and that gets them all excited. To where your privates are more like, they're more serious. They're gonna set up an SLS camera. They're gonna set up infrared cameras. They're gonna go back and review 10 hours of audio recording. So there's a big difference in both sides of the paranormal between the publics and the privates. So we just want to be able to offer everything to everybody.
And it definitely sounds like you have quite a selection for, depending on what people want to do, you definitely have those options. And just for our listeners, if you want to go to yorkghosttours.com, all the information is there on how to schedule and what events are coming up. So I'd like to talk about the locations that you guys cover. So are all three of these locations owned by one person, or did you kind of scout out to other places and say, this is what we're doing, can we connect them?
Well, right now they're all being owned by one person. Our goal is to contact or contract with other, I'm going to say restaurants, business owners, other places that we know that are haunted in York, to be able to contract with them and start partnering with them to offer events at their locations also. But being the first year, we're only a couple months into this, we're going to promote the 3 locations that we have pretty hard right now until I can get some packages set up to do with other locations. So that's our ultimate goal. We kind of want to be like, kind of like the Gettysburg of York. We want to be able to, you go to Gettysburg, you have the orphanage, and you have the other locations like that. Well, we kind of want to be the same thing with York. So we already know of a bunch of haunted locations already that I've already talked to some of the owners about. I don't want to name those locations yet, but it sounds like we got a great season coming up, and a lot of God, I'm just so excited. There's so much going to be happening with your ghost tours here in the future. So I'm really looking forward to that. But the places that we have right now, Rebecca, the Speakeasy itself, oh my gosh, music is crazy haunted. It's a lot more haunted than I originally thought, but it's proven to be a true hot spot, even with the paranormal teams that come in privately. So we knew it was pretty haunted with the public teams, but I had a paranormal team come in this past Saturday night, and they actually saw apparitions. They heard disembodied voices. And this is a paranormal team that's been in the field for many, many years. So they're credible, is what I'm saying. So I was actually really excited about that. And they're going through all their review right now and putting together everything. And I'm hoping to get some of that stuff on the website soon. But it's been the Haunted Speakeasy is probably our main attraction right now, just because of the history of it and all. But then we also offer I call it the doctor's office / morgue. And then we have another, like I said, a nuisance bar that's now an office. So we have 3 locations to choose from. I just think the Speakeasy is our hottest location right now. So, but you never know until you come down and see for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
You better come check it out for yourself, then you'll know.
So do you have a lot of teams sending you stuff like after they've spent their evening or their time there? Have they sent you a lot of stuff afterwards, or is this stuff that you have on your website? Is that mostly stuff that you've collected personally?
Well, here's what I did, because I didn't want to show prejudice. So what I did was I asked other teams and other people that I know in the paranormal field to go in and investigate these places for me. So I said, go in and investigate it for me and give me your opinion. So I used several different teams and several different people from all over, people that didn't even know each other. And they all 3 went in, the 3 teams that I'm talking about, every one of them went in, and they kind of gave me the same feedback as to what kind of spirit activity they were getting. The Speakeasy has a little girl. A lot of people hear her disembodied voice, and she seems to ride a bicycle and rings the bell on the bicycle. people were telling me about a man named Jerry there, which is one of the evidence pieces that we have on the website, and I'll tell you about Jerry in a minute. And then the speakeasy was also a burlesque, a cat house, and a mob headquarters. So there was rumors about some rapes down there and some pretty nasty activity going on down there. And we've actually got some EVPs and stuff that, correlate with that. So it was awesome to get all three of these different people, three different teams, to tell me that they were the stuff they were getting, because I knew it was all pretty much legit. I personally, just like before I started Haldeman, I won't promote a place as being haunted unless I know for sure it's haunted, because that's my reputation on the line. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to say, hey, come down and investigate this place and not even know if it's haunted, or just use my opinion or my evidence. So it was really cool to be able to gather some stuff. I'm a little behind on updating some stuff on the website just because I've been so busy this spring, fall and spring. But there's a lot more stuff that I need to get out there on the website. So if anybody's listening, just stay tuned for the next couple weeks. Hopefully I'll get it out there. So yeah, the speakeasy is pretty crazy. So it definitely won't disappoint you if you go.
All right, so let me make sure we're clear. So we've got the speakeasy, which is the underground space, the basement space, the doctor's office, which used to be the morgue, and a bar from the early 1900s, right? I just want to make sure those are the three separate locations. So are they connected anyway, like historically, or is it just those are the three locations that you're starting to work with?
They're not connected historically. They're each three different locations. The thing about the history of the places itself is I don't want to talk about the history of the buildings themselves, because that's not going to tell you anything. It's actually the history of the locations that's important. So, and it being in York, and they're all pretty close together, and I don't know if anybody knows any of the history of York, and I'm definitely not an expert on history, is not my forte, but there was a lot of history in York as far as the war going through there, and it was actually the city and where the Articles of Confederation were written. There's a lot of history that went through, and only being maybe 30 miles from Gettysburg, the war did go through there. So, but not only that, but I mean, York was the first for a lot of different things. So the city itself has a lot of history at, and where these locations are, Rebecca, are actually almost in the town square. So we're not talking outskirts of York. We're talking dead center in the middle of York, where a lot of the military and the war and all that stuff would have taken place. So I can't go back and say they're haunted because of that, because I don't have any proof of that yet. More or less, the evidence that I have of the haunted activity is really just the buildings or the rooms themselves. The speakeasy, I said, because of the nature of the business, obviously down there. Where the little girl comes from, we don't know. The one spirit down there named Jerry, it's an interesting story about him. He was actually a resident who lived in the building, because these are big buildings. They're not just little buildings. They're big buildings. And Jerry was actually a resident who lived in the building for 38 years. And he was very attached to the building, and he was more or less the maintenance man. He kind of took over, was like the caretaker type thing. And he had his own parking spot, and he was up in his 80s, I guess. And he went out one weekend to visit his daughter, I think in Rehoboth Beach or something. And in the snowstorm, it started snowing, and the daughter wanted him to stay, and he didn't want to stay because he wanted to get back, because he wanted to make sure the trash was taken out. And unfortunately, he got killed on the way back, and I think he was 82 years old. He died in a car accident on the way back. But we know that Jerry is actually one of the spirits that's still there. He had a cage where the speakeasy is now. He had a cage down there that he kept all his, I guess, some of his personal belongings in. And he kept his cage under lock and key, and he was very attached to those belongings. So it's, you open up that cage and you go stand in that cage, and you're going to most likely, so far, knock on wood, connect with Jerry. So if people go on the website and they see the video where Jerry comes through the ghost box, that's actually them standing in his cage. So he's an interesting fellow. And he loves to chat. He seems to be very chatty. Now, and I forgot your question, Rebecca, because I got so off track.
No, that's fine.
Once I start talking, I don't shut up.
No, it's cool. Actually,
I have to cut in.
No, I had asked if they were connected historically, which you did answer, and you said they weren't. My question was going to be, like, you've got these people kind of bouncing from location to location during your 12-hour investigation blocks. Have you ever had a spirit follow a group?
Not yet, knock on wood. We're new into this. So, I don't know. We've had publics out there so far this year, and then this past Saturday was our first private. So that was the first private group that actually got to come out and spend 12 to 14 hours. And they were the ones giving me the feedback about the apparitions and stuff. Now, I haven't heard any of them say anything's followed them home yet. Hopefully it won't. But the public groups that we've had out there, nobody's complained to that either. So we're hoping they stay put. So all I can say was that we hope they stay put.
I say if it was up to me, I'd be like, I wish, they connect to somebody, start talking to them, and then they're like, okay, we're going to go to the next building. I'd be like, wait, I'm not done yet. And then just follow them to the next building. That would
follow them. You know ghosts as well as me. You know they can do that, so who knows? They might.
Yeah. That would be me as a ghost too. I'd be that irritating one, and I'd be put on like a fake British accent or something to totally throw everybody off. Like, yep.
Yeah, you never know. That would be interesting. That might be one thing I might ask. We're booked, I think, the next six weekends in a row with private teams, and I think that's a good thing. I might ask them, hey, do me a little favor and do an experiment, see if they'll follow you from location, because that would be interesting to know.
I think that's, like I said, I'm kind of a smart ass, but that's what I would do. Like if I was a ghost.
That's actually a great idea. You just gave me a great idea. I'm going to use it.
Awesome. Well, let us know how that goes, because I
will.
All right, so we are going to take a real quick commercial break. We're at the halfway point of the show. If you tuned in late, we're talking to Lora Shirley from York Ghost Tours. While we're on our break, go to yorkghosttours.com, tours with an S at the end, and check out all their information about their private investigations, their public investigations, and hang tight. We'll be right back here on the Shadows Radio on the PowerX Radio Network.
From Ghost Adventures, and you're listening to PowerX Radio.
Hi, this is Hollywood Hunt Rider Marla Brooks, and you're listening to the PowerX Radio Network.
But remember, we'll always see you in the shadows.
Paramount, 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 Paramount.
Welcome back to the Shadows Radio here on the ParaX Radio Network. I'm still Rebecca, and our guest tonight is Lora Shirley from York Ghost Tours. Lora, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So before the break, we were talking about the Speakeasy, and it sounds to me like that's like your favorite place to investigate from all the stuff that you were telling me about. But let's talk about the other locations that you have. So the doctor's office that is the original morgue. So you're saying that this is it a doctor's office now, or is it like that's what it was then?
No. And here's the thing about that. It's abandoned, and it's also an underground, kind of like a basement location. You have to take the elevator down to the basement to get to it. And we don't have this historical anywhere from the archives or anything, but when somebody was doing some research in the library, they had discovered some newspaper articles where when the original York Hospital was being built, they used this building as the temporary hospital. So we're not even sure if the basement location was a morgue. We're just kind of assuming, because it's a basement, it could have been used as a morgue. But we know that it was used as doctors' offices many, many years ago, and it's been sitting empty and abandoned for a long time. And it's very well kept. It's neat. There's a lot of different rooms down there to go through, and it's big. The only thing that I can really say that's been captured that I would call paranormal is there's a man down there, and he's just not a very pleasant man. He's kind of grouchy, miserable, moans and groans a lot, grunts. We know we've captured him down there. Now, to be honest with you, when we do public investigations, our plan is to spend 2 hours in the Speakeasy and 2 hours over there in the old doctor's office / morgue. But we always get so much activity in the Speakeasy that we never make it over there. So we haven't gathered a whole lot of stuff from over there. The paranormal team that was there this past Saturday night, I asked them if they came up with anything to please share it with me. So I'm waiting to get word back from them about that place. The nuisance bar that is now actually an office, we only offer that to the private teams. So we know before, we know when we put it on the agenda, some of the stuff that we called over there was a woman saying she was born in 1912. There's a drawer over there that has been, everybody, their mother has tried to debunk this drawer, but for some reason it slams open and slams closed all on its own. And the French doors to the place, like somebody's jiggling them to try to get in all the time. So that kind of activity has happened over there. We do know that was, it sits along the railroad. And what happened was back in the early 1900s, that was like a little convenience store, and they had hotel rooms above it. And the railroad that would go from Harrisburg to Baltimore, one of the stops would be this little convenience store and hotel. And people would get off the train, and they would buy their little foods or stuff, and then a lot of times they would get a room and spend the night. Now, back in the 1920s, it actually turned into a bar, and it became a bar, but it ended up being such a nuisance bar that they ended up closing it down in the 2000s. I'm going to say 2006, and I could have that year wrong, but somewhere around there. And then it said abandoned and kind of condemned for a couple years until this company came in and bought it and completely redid it. They completely remodeled it and turned it all the way around. And now it's actually an office, and we still get some great stuff out there. We've had SLS stuff out of there. We get really great ghost box sessions out of there where they'll say our names or complete sentences. So we've gotten some really good stuff out of there also. So this group that was there Saturday night, I'm kind of anxious to see what they come up with that also from out of there. So we're still waiting. Because we're so new, This is only our third month into it. We're still looking forward to building up all our resume, I guess, of evidence that we can find. But the speakeasy, because it's for public also, it's just been so hot, and the activity down there, it's just off the wall. I mean, I always thought Haldeman was a great place to investigate, and it is. The speakeasy's proven to be one of my next favorite places. It's like it never disappoints you. You go down there, and they're intelligent spirits. They're intelligent. They want to interact with you, and they do. And I always love places like that. So, and that's which makes it a great place to investigate. Just because they want to interact with you, you know. Yep. You don't have to go down the hallway and chase them.
Well,
they're there. Good. They're there waiting for you to talk to them.
I said, I'm not much of a runner, so the less I have to go chasing after spirits, the better.
Absolutely. I don't have to run down a dark hallway asking, who's here? You know, do you want to talk to me? There's been many investigations like that. So, yeah, I mean, the stuff's pretty active, and you don't have to sit there and review your recorders to see if you got something. I mean, it's kind of right in your face. So you can't help but fall in love with it. So it's pretty cool. It's a really, really cool location. It's kind of hidden. Mm-hmm. So not too many people know it's there yet. I'm going to try to keep it that way. But it's actually an awesome place. I hope a lot of people get a chance to get out and explore it. Especially, I don't know if there's a lot of private team people listening, but the places to investigate, I mean, everybody's always, I know I am, always looking for new places to go to.
Yes.
So this is definitely a hidden gem. So I hope people get a chance to come out and check it out for themselves. So, but yeah, there's a little girl down there. I've had some psychic mediums come in too to try to put pieces together, and nobody seems to know where this little girl comes from, which is an unusual. So, but we got a lot of time to try to figure that out. But she does. You hear her disembodied voice all the time. She'll say hello. You'll hear her laugh. And I know a lot of people have their own theory on children's spirits, but you can hear a bike bell, and it's funny because we would hear a bell down there a lot. It's like a little bell, and we never knew really what that bell was. And then I had a psychic medium come up from West Virginia. I had invited her up, and I didn't tell her nothing. And she went down there, and she spent some time, and she came back upstairs, and she said, you have a little girl that rides a bike and rings the bell. And we about fell to the floor because that's when we realized that's where that bell is that we keep hearing. So that was pretty good confirmation.
Very cool. All right, so we have some listener questions that came in that I wanna ask you really quick, if you don't mind. So the first one was that you used the term nuisance bar when you were describing the bar, and they weren't familiar with that term. They want to know if you would kind of explain what that means.
Okay, nuisance bar is where the cops get called constantly. So if there's shootings, fighting, stabbings, drugs, things like that. I don't know about other places, but York has a thing that's called, if you get too many nuisance calls in a year, then you have to shut your doors. So obviously that bar was a place that was not happy, was not your mom and pop corner bar. It was one of those bars where you took your life in the hand when you went into it. So.
All right. The second question was for people who are not familiar with where York is. Can you describe where it is in terms of like a kind of a major city?
Yeah, York, Pennsylvania sits between Gettysburg and Lancaster. So if you're coming from Baltimore, York is probably about 20 miles over the Maryland line. You come in from Gettysburg, we're about 30 miles from Gettysburg, 20 miles from Lancaster, and about 20 miles from Harrisburg. So we're kind of central to a lot of those locations.
Excellent. And the last question that came in, they wanted to know if we wanted to do a private tour, but we weren't super familiar, could we hire a tour guide for the night without having to do a public investigation?
Absolutely. Yep, you sure could. And we make the private tours so affordable that it wouldn't break the bank to sign on a private guide for the night. And really, if you want to do a private and you're not real familiar, really have a guy come in for 4 or 5 hours, and then by then you'd be expert to go on your own. So, but it would be up to them. Absolutely, we're willing to work with anybody.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you guys for those questions. I appreciate it. And one more time, it's YorkGhostTours.com. So if you're poking around and you want to check out some of this information, that's where you could find that. So, Lora, we talked about the speakeasy and the doctor's office and the bar and everything. So I guess my question for you is, when you go to these places, and you've now been to them a number of times over and over and over again, what is kind of your favorite technique for drumming up activity? Like, do you like to do EVP? Do you like to just sit and listen? What kind of technique do you like to follow?
My favorite thing is ghost boxes. And I do this because I consider myself a semi-pro, because I have a technique. Of course, a lot of people know to run their recorders the same time you run a ghost box. But I don't want random words to come across. I have one of the old school ghost boxes that you can't even get on the market anymore. It's just an old Radio Shack hack type thing, and I get very little static from it. So I love it, but I'm looking for direct answers. I don't want to just take any word and make something out of it. And that is so annoying to me when I see other people do that. I just want to scream. No offense to anybody, but that's just me. Like when I'm using it over at Haldeman Mansion, I'll say, whose house is this? And if I get the word Haldeman to come through, then I know that I'm actually talking to a ghost or a spirit or whatever you want to call it. Then I know for a fact that I can continue to have a conversation with that spirit or ghost that's come through. So that's what I want. I want validation. A lot of times, too, what I like to do is I hold up flashcards. I make my own cards. Like I'll write the word horse, or I'll write the word apple or pie, and I'll hold the flashcard up, and I'll say, can you say this word? What is this word I'm holding in my hand? And a lot of times you'll get back the word horse or apple, and then you know you're legitimately talking to a spirit or a presence that's there. So that's one of my favorite techniques, because I'm getting that instant gratification, that instant knowledge of knowing that I'm actually talking to a presence. So another thing, too, that I like to try to do if you're in a large enough location, or if you're in multiple locations, actually, is if you're in it with a group of people and you have cell phones, call each other, put them on speakerphone, but leave one of the phones. Let's say you leave one of the phones over in the doctor's office morgue and you sit over in the speakeasy. You can actually talk to the spirits that are over there. And I do this a lot at Haldeman. When I'm in the mansion, I'll leave the phone in the summer kitchen. And I'll say, is there anybody there? Well, the presence that's there is not going to see anybody, and they're not familiar with phones. So all they hear is a voice. So a lot of times if you have a presence there that wants to communicate back with you, you're going to catch them off guard. And they're going to say something, and you're actually going to hear it come through the phone. So these are just those are my two favorite things to do, actually. And I get great responses from both of them. So hold up flashcards. You can do them through EVP sessions. I like to do them through ghost box sessions, and then also do the cell phones where you put them on speaker and try to talk to a different location. So I don't know if anybody ever tries those techniques, but if you're listening, those are great techniques to try.
All right. The idea of the flashcards for me sounds genius, because honestly, I get really irritated with ghost boxes because exactly what you said. People listen to it and they try and like, oh, it said banana shoe, corner, and they kind of like, oh, she must have tripped and fell in the corner and it broke her shoe. Like, you're like, you just got a whole Disney movie out of 3 words that may or may not have actually been words.
I hate that too, Rebecca. That's why I jumped in and I started, I gotta eliminate this, So yeah, the flashcards and also pictures, because a lot of the you got to think about what era you're trying to connect with. A lot of them didn't know how to read or write. So pictures also, like I would have common knowledge pictures, like a picture of a horse or a picture of an apple. Common pictures that that they would have known of, no matter what era it was. So either words on a flashcard or pictures, both work very well. I mean, if you're going to take the time out to investigate, I mean, you want to know that you're really communicating with a presence that's there. I mean, just to hear a word come through the ghost box and make something out of it, to me, that's not really investigating. That's not confirmation to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not, so. Yeah, those are great ideas. The speakerphone actually works really well too. You'd be surprised. So it's really cool if you're sitting there and you got a phone, in the next building, and there's nobody over there, and you hear something come up to the phone and start breathing real heavy in it. That kind of puts chills down your spine as well, because you're actually hearing it come through the phone. So that's pretty cool too. So.
Just make sure it's not a really chubby rat or something.
Oh, we hope not. But I learned those techniques years ago when I had my own team. We would do a lot of private homes. Mm-hmm. And I would get so annoyed because I'd be like, I really want to give these homeowners genuine evidence that, that there's something here. So how can I do that? So that idea came to me many years ago when we were doing private homes, and I just use it in everyday investigating, and it comes out really well. So it does really well at Haldeman. So
I just say I love that. Rather than, like I said, there's a couple times when I actually went to a place in Gettysburg, and I won't mention the team that was leading the event, but it was one of those things. They had the ghost box out, and it was spitting out random words, and it sounded like it was stopping at the same radio station every time. And it was, and they made this list, and they were writing it on a big piece of paper. And at the end, they're like, look, this and this and this all connect. And they had come up with an entire plot of a movie based on these 10 words or whatever. And, of course, everyone there it was one of those public events where the people are just there for the quick hit celebration of, we got something.
Right. And entertainment. That's what I call it.
And my friend and I were sitting in the back going, nope. Like, whatever. We were dying, but it was like, okay, yes, you've got a whole movie out of that 10 words. But so I'm writing this flashcard thing down because that's genius. I love that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good technique. If you really want to connect and you're really talking to somebody there, do the flashcards.
Because I always did. My thing was always ask them to say Darth Vader. That was always my thing. Like, say Darth Vader, because then I know you're actually talking to me.
Yeah.
And that did not work.
And I did that too. I do that too, but I don't use Darth Vader. I use like apple or pie or something simple. But then I throw the flashcards in there, and depending on the level or the intelligent level that you have of the person speaking back to you, especially the younger ones, they love the flashcards. I think some of your older ones, and I throw out Haldeman there a lot because I spend so much time here, but I know when I'm at Haldeman and I use the flashcards, it appeals more to the younger ghosts that are there compared to the older grouchy man who's there, who sometimes I think he feels like he gets insulted by that. Like, how dare you give me a flashcard? I'm not an idiot, a type thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like I tell people, ghosts are people, they just don't have a body. So you want to appeal to their educational level, in their intellectual level as well. So you just got to address it that way before you do it. But, yeah, to say, I don't mean to offend nobody, but, if you don't know how to read, here's some picture ones. For the kids, you want to play a game? That's how I always say it. Kid, you want to play a game? Tell me what this is, So it's you just make it fun for them. That's all.
Very cool.
But
All right,
Yeah.
so we're coming down to the last 5 minutes or so of this show. So I just want to reiterate again, this is York Ghost Tours in York, Pennsylvania, and you can find them at yorkghosttours.com. Do you guys have Facebook or anything people can find you on?
Yes, the same thing, York Ghost Tours. So if they just search in York Ghost Tours, it'll come up. They'll find it.
Excellent. And I did have one more listener question that came in, and they wanted to know, when you're doing your tours, and we're again using the word tours, but these are really just investigations, because as we say, these are not walking tours. These are true experiences of the paranormal. So when you're doing your tour, have you ever found that there's someone in the group that turns the spirits off and it kind of kills it for the night?
Yep. And I always make a joke about that in the beginning when I'm doing publics. Positive energy will get you positive results. If you're a negative person, you're not going to have any spirit activity around you, and you're going to ruin it for the people in your group. So if we find that you're a negative person, we're kicking you out of the group. And then we laugh about it, but we don't never normally do that. But yes, that is definitely a big problem. So my goal in the beginning is to get everybody loosened up, tell a couple jokes, make them feel at ease. That way everybody kind of goes into it with a positive attitude and they're going to have fun. But yes, you can have a negative Nelly. Oh my gosh. And it kills it. It's horrible. Horrible. So yeah. And in all my experience doing public, if you don't have positive, fun people in your group, you're not going to get anything for that night. So, I mean, really, if you're a real person, Rebecca, who wants to be around negative people? You're not going to want to be around negative people. Well, ghosts aren't any different.
I agree.
So,
yep.
Yeah,
I'm the same way. I always tell people when I do, kind of events that I'm leading people around, it basically comes down to, when you walk into a party, are you talking to the group that looks like they're having fun, or are you going to go poke the guy in the corner that's not doing anything? No, you're going to migrate towards the people that look like they're having a ball. So go have fun.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That's the same way with ghosts.
I think
so. Just because they don't have a body doesn't mean they don't have feelings. So.
Yeah, I think people forget that we're, yes, it's serious. Yes, we're investigating. Yes, we're trying to come up with some evidence. But at the same time, if it's not fun, you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get anything.
You can still have a good time and do a serious investigation.
Exactly.
Ghosts like to laugh too. They like to have fun and play games. So just think of them as people without a body and you'll be fine. But so yeah. But I hope people give us a chance, come out and check us out. Publics will run $20, $25. Privates are only $45 for 12 hours. So the pricing is really cheap.
I say you can't beat that price anywhere.
Other places. Yeah. So
that's an amazing, that you can't beat that anywhere.
No. And we're actually on April 27th, we're doing an all-night investigation at Haldeman Mansion. It's through York Ghost Tours. So you have to book it through York Ghost Tours. But we will be out at Haldeman Mansion doing an 8 o'clock at night to 8 in the morning investigation. And that's only $35. We try to make it affordable so people will come out and have a good time, because it's not that I didn't do this to get rich, because the Lord knows I won't, but I did it so everybody can actually have a good time and learn things along the way. It's not my goal to make you believe in ghosts. It's my goal to, hopefully by the end of the night, you can have an experience that you can't explain. So if that happens, then, I can pat myself on the back and say I did a good job. So I just want everybody to have fun. You don't have to join bowling teams. You can come out and do an investigation for 4 hours in the dark. Then you'll have a story to tell your friends.
And probably a couple of brushins. But, yeah. All right. Well, Lora, we are down to the end of the last part of our show here. So thank you so much for spending your evening with me and sharing all the information about your tours.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Rebecca.
It was my pleasure. And remember, guys, it's yorkghosttours.com. So if you're out in the Gettysburg area, if you're out in Philadelphia, all these places, Baltimore even, you can get to York in little to no time. So this is totally worth that, few minutes in the car to get there to experience this. And the price cannot be beat. I mean, you heard those prices. You can't find those prices for 12 hours anywhere. That's just impossible. So make sure you check out Lora and everyone there at York Ghost Tours. And as always, I'm Rebecca, and we'll see you guys in the shadows.